Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to Animal Behavior. We were just talking about social behaviors. We were just talking about altruism. Let's move on and talk now about instinctual behaviors. Instinctual behaviors are unlearned, automatic responses to a stimulus. After a stimulus, you will often have what's called a fixed action pattern. A fixed action pattern means that once the animal has received a particular stimulus, it is going to do this particular action, and it's basically a sequence of events, a sequence of muscle contractions that it has to do to completion and can't stop. It's fixed, a fixed action pattern. Often, these instinctual behaviors have to be performed right the first time. And the reason why they have to be performed right the first time is because the individual might die otherwise. A really good example is like flying. Flying is an instinctual behavior for birds. It has to be done right the first time because what happens if the bird doesn't learn to fly? Splat. That's actually not often the case. It's not often the case. Baby birds fall out of the nest all the time. Fledglings come out of the nest all the time. And if you find a baby bird on the ground, leave it alone. Mom and daddy are nearby and they're feeding it. It'd be okay. All right. Fixed action patterns usually follow specific sign stimuli. A sign stimuli, that is the thing that causes the instinctual behavior to happen and that makes it occur. A good example is Goose Egg Retrieval. I've got a picture coming up in just a second. Interesting thing about geese. Geese and most waterfowl nest on the ground. And because they nest on the ground, eggs can roll out of the nest and not break. Like if it was in a tree, it'd break. An egg can roll out of the nest. When an egg rolls out of the nest, the mother goose will see it and will do a very specific action to get it back in the nest. She will do basically kind of a Z pattern, a zigzag, like this, to bring the egg back into the nest. The reason why she has to do it like that is because eggs aren't perfectly round. They don't roll straight. They kind of roll in an arc. So she has to do this and then like that. If you were to take an egg and put it out of the nest, and as soon as the mom starts to do that fixed action pattern, if you were to reach in and snatch the egg out, she will complete the motion. She can't stop. It is a fixed action pattern. It is instinctual. Once she gets the sign stimuli, I see an egg out of the nest, she will do the fixed action pattern, the instinctual move of bringing the egg back in. And once the egg is gone, she's going to complete the action because it's fixed. Human infants will smile when they see a face. Also, very, very adaptive, very good. Why is it adaptive? For the mother to bring the egg back in the nest so that she can keep it warm, she can incubate it, she can hatch it. Why is it instinctual for a human infant to smile when they see a face? How do you feel when a baby smiles at you? Oh, look at the cute little baby. Adorable little baby. And what happens, imagine like, native scenario, imagine post-apocalyptic scenario, and you find an infant that you pick up and then it smiles at you. You are now going to take care of this little thing because it loves you, right? It doesn't. It just smiled because it saw a face. It's an instinctual behavior. The baby can't control it. Just to hurt your feelings. No, the baby doesn't love you. It's just they grow to love you. But all right, cuckoo chicks. Another instinctual behavior is, all right, so this is a bit of a story. I'll try to make it brief. A cuckoo bird, like a cuckoo clock. Cuckoo birds are what are called nest parasites. A nest parasite is when a female bird will go and lay her egg in somebody else's nest and then leave. Laying her egg in somebody else's nest, what she's doing is she is making this other parent raise her child. All of the energy that it takes to feed and to raise a baby, she's now making this other parent do it. And she doesn't do it to other cuckoos. She usually does it to another species of bird. And it's very common she'll do it to like a songbird, like a warbler or something like that. So the cuckoo chick hatches really quick. And because the cuckoo chick hatches so quick, it is usually the first one out of the shell. And because it's the first one out of the shell, if it feels something on its back, like a baby chick of the actual parents whose nest it is, or an egg of the actual parents whose nest it is, this cuckoo chick will actually back up to the edge of the nest and then do a motion like this, where it pushes whatever's on its back out of the nest. Why is that adaptive? Why does that help? How does that help the cuckoo? Well, the way it helps the cuckoo is that now all of the food that mom and dad bring back to the nest go to the cuckoo chick. Nest parasitism. Here we see the goose egg retrieval. Mom sees an egg outside of the nest. She's going to do this zigzag pattern where she brings the egg back in. If you reach in and snatch the egg out, she will complete the motion. Do a Google search, do a YouTube search for Goose Egg Retrieval, and see if you can find it, where a guy actually reaches in and he snatches the egg out and she completes the action. It's actually a really quick action. It's not slow like that. She goes, it's really fast. But if you reach in and snatch the egg out, she'll complete the motion. Learned behaviors. So we just talked about instinctual behaviors. Instinctual are unlearned. A learned behavior are things that can be, they use past experience. Animals use past experience to alter the outcome of the specific pattern. Learned behaviors. Our first and simplest learned behavior is called imprinting. This is when an infant, a baby, sees the first large moving object and says, that is mom. And then we'll follow that organism around, follow that animal around for its entire adolescence. Birds will imprint. Birds are actually really classical imprinters. But other animals can do it too. Birds learning songs from their parents. This is imprinting. We talked about it in Biology 1. We talked about the two different parrots, the pink parrot and the white parrot, where the greeting call is instinctual, but the mating call is learned. It's imprinted. And so the babies, the chicks, have to listen to their parents to learn these calls, learning songs from their parents. When you have an organism, when you have an animal that has imprinted, they will usually see similar individuals to the parent as that's my species, and will look to those during its time for mating when they grow up and become adults. This can actually be kind of a big problem with some birds. There are species of storks and cranes, endangered species of storks and cranes, that researchers have basically special suits that they will wear. They'll make a puppet that looks like the head of the species of crane that they are, and then that's all the chick sees. And they never let the chicks actually see a human, because if these things imprint on a human, then they're going to try to pick a human to be the mate, and because the human doesn't know the right mating calls and doesn't know the right mating dances, they won't make eggs, and they basically become a genetic dead end because they imprinted wrong. All right? There's lots. Again, you can do that and go look up Google search hand-raising storks, and specifically, I know it's the Japanese that do this. So in this graphic, we see a sparrow, and this is what the normal bird song looks like. All right, with these trills afterward. So this is a bird that was reared in isolation. This is a bird that did not get to hear the call from its parents. And because it didn't get to hear, notice how it doesn't do the call right. It's got the first part is too long, and the following bits are way too long, and they don't match. And if this individual, who basically never learned to talk, goes around other individuals of its species, they won't be able to communicate with one another because they didn't learn the language. This is imprinting, learning something from their parent. This is Conrad Lens. As you can see, a farmer with his little ducklings following along, actually little goslings, little geese following along. This guy is not just a farmer. This guy was a behaviorist, an animal behavior researcher. And he did some of the primary research on imprinting, and it was because of these geese. I really love this picture for a couple of reasons. Not the least of which being, you look at your professors and you see, someone, and you imagine someone who, this is what they've done their whole life, right? They've always been in the classroom, they've always been a researcher, and they didn't do anything else. And the reason why he studied goslings is that I'm sure he was raised on a farm, and he had to raise little baby geese when he was a kid, and he got really used to it, he knew it. And so when he goes away, when he goes home from work, he goes back to his little family farm where he's got his goslings. Well-published researcher being chased around by a bunch of chicks. All right? We have histories, we have pasts.